Welcome to Notes. This interview is with Marc Gallia, who lives in Malta. I met Marc a few years ago through my work with the RGT, and Marc has got some great stories concerning his development of his guitar playing and his teaching business, which I think will be very useful for anybody thinking of starting a business or becoming a musician anywhere in the world. So without further ado, let's go over to the interview and see you at the other side. Recording. Right. Okay. So how did you get started then, Marc? What happened?
The thing is, since I was 11 years of age, I never saw me doing anything else except playing guitar. Okay, at that stage I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to play with a famous band. I wanted to tour the world, but always it was guitar. Then, from 20 years up, it was more like a realistic thing, and not more like a dream. But I never saw me doing anything else. Although I did about 25 different jobs in my life. I did everything, like cleaning carpets, waiter and property negotiator, work in a bank, everything I did. But it was just temporary, just to get some money to buy a guitar or to buy an amp. So I never saw me like wanted to pay attention at school, I always went to school with a guitar and instead of books, because I saw it as a natural thing, for me. That's how it started. It was 24 November 1991 when I heard "Show Must Go On." It was the day that Freddie Mercury died, so it changed everything in my life. It was that I want to play guitar, and the thing is that I thought it was the bass that was making this sound.
Yeah.
Because my father played guitar.
Yeah.
And my father played guitar in church and didn't.
Right. So it didn't sound anything like your dad's guitar playing.
So no, that is not the sound of a guitar. Imagine like 1991 here in Malta we had nothing, obviously no internet, nothing. So you had to figure out yourself everything. So I thought that the bass was making that cool rock sound, And then by time. But learning was a very hard process for me. It wasn't natural, like my decision, because I couldn't barely read a book, an English book, because I never paid attention at school. So there was no guitar teachers on the island, so I had to buy the total guitar at the time and try to read the articles and figure out. Now there is a scale. Okay, that's a pentatonic scale. So then licks and everything. So that was the beginning. I still remember it like yesterday.
It's amazing because I was talking to Max Milligan, and there is something in that thing of starting off, and you have to actively go and find the information. It's not just there. You've just got to go and get it, and you've got to work at it and work it out. And that sort of scarcity mentality, that you've got to work for everything that you get, seems to make a vast difference to how good you become. Because when I started, there were no decent music books at all. The only music books that I can remember were things like the Beatles Complete, and everything was in the wrong key, or it was just wrong,
Or it was written for a piano or something.
Yeah, it was written for the piano. So the songs, like Day Tripper was in C. You sort of think, well, so you try and work it out, and it just didn't make any sense at all. So everything was worked out off the record. So you literally got vinyl and slowed it down. And there is something in this that, because there's that sort of scarcity thing, everything that you do is more, is sort of deeper. The information sort of, because you've had such a lot of trouble getting it,
Yeah,
We don't
it's
sort of.
like you invented it yourself.
Yes.
It's not like that, but it is tailor made for you that you want
Yes.
to it's
It,
customized for
yes.
you.
It's like it's sort of embodied. It's in you.
Yeah,
Sort of.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I agree with you.
that's really interesting. I don't. When I'm teaching people, I'm sort of aware that it's a little bit of an issue when things are a little bit easy for people.
Yes.
Do you find that?
But nowadays they want things easy.
Yes,
Otherwise,
they
you
do.
lose all the students. You
Yes.
need to give them all the tabs with the right fingerings, with the right cameras, with the right picking direction. If it's like that, you are going to catch him. If it's the drums are on the way, I remember I told with all the you're going to lose the student. But I'm still studying all the notes John Mizzarolli gave me. This was
Yeah.
2001,
Right.
2002. I'm still working on them,
Yes.
because there's so much information,
Yes.
But nowadays it's different. Nowadays you have to use, yes, I see a lot of brilliant guitar players, 13, 14-year-old. Yes, we are seeing them that level, at young level, but the majority are lazy,
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
Because the internet, the mobile phone, the smartphone make us want everything in a second, in a split of a second. Like you have a pill and become a good guitar player.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. And I think that's a problem because you see, one of the things that I sort of pondered is that when somebody like Hendrix appeared on the scene, I mean, technically he wasn't the best player because there's all these amazing jazz players about.
Yeah.
There was the Tal Farlows and the Barney Kessels and and you think, well, what is it then? What's the difference? What was it that made him stand out as a player?
His soul.
Absolutely, and that is the thing that you can't get out of a book.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the determination thing that we're talking about. The fact that you really have to work at something develops that aspect, and I'm not sure whether the technique takes you there. It helps because it's a toolkit, but it doesn't really take you to that point. And I've often pondered this. So you do see a lot of technically really good players, but is there something lacking in some of those players' ability? I'm just, there's just something that I've sort of wondered a bit. I don't know. Time will tell, I guess.
Yeah. Yes. Time was. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I know this. Yeah. But I'm seeing a lot of that. Yes. That. The dream, it's not like possible anymore. Because there's more pressure in the world from, that time people they could call me crazy and stop there.
Yes.
Now it's different. Now you can't survive.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it.
No, I think actually when you were talking about going to school and taking your guitar with you instead of your books, that is something I can't imagine ever happening now. You can just get away with that. And that story is very similar to somebody else's actually who didn't do any work at school. This is somebody from Greece actually, and all he was interested in was playing the guitar. And it was a very similar sort of scenario where he didn't do any work. He just sort of sat around and played guitar all the time. And you sort of think, well, the situation now at school, well, certainly in this country, I don't know if it's like this with you.
Yeah.
It's just so formulaic. It's just that you've got to. This has got to be done, and this box has got to be ticked. And this is, and then it's all under the sort of, the idea of child protection or, health and safety or. Or you've got to get this done in order for your exam, blah de blah de blah, because this teacher's got to get this quality, this amount of people through, and you just think this is absurd. Particularly, because I write a lot of blogs about where we're going economically and how I don't think the work situation that people are being prepared for is anything like they're going to find in 3-4 years time, And something like music gives you the opportunity to really open your mind up and think creatively. And I don't see that in any other in other arts there are, but it depends on how they're taught.
Yes,
And music's
yeah.
a great way of doing that, because you've got to be always adaptable, haven't you, with music?
But I think improvisation more
Yes.
than music.
Yes.
Improvisation, because if you're working like a classical with an orchestra and just you read music, that's a totally different story, because
It
I
is.
work with orchestra.
Yes,
You
in
know,
fact,
and
that's really what I was getting at. It wasn't so much. I mean, obviously, learning to read and following scores and stuff like that is a discipline and has its rewards in many ways. And the fact that you're working with other people and the fact that you've got to respond dynamically to the collective is an important thing that you don't often get, because the other problem is there's so much individual thinking now. People don't think collectively. You know what I mean? They're not taught to be like
yes.
It's like this sort of the sort of almost like the cult of the individual. It's just everywhere, and of course you're no good as a musician if you're just an individual, are you? Unless you're a solo performer, but you've got to work collectively with other people.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, going back to we've got this thing of you turning up at school and not, with your guitar. What happens? What happens then? You've got the moment, the revelation moment of listening to Queen and realising
That was before. I'm telling you this from Form 3, which means when I was about 14, 15.
Yeah.
I stopped my interest in school and I was going to take that. Then after I had my O-levels and I failed from all of them.
Yeah.
I didn't have O-levels to continue to secondary school. Then I continued my whole life until 21. Until 21 I started professionally, But from 16 till 21 I was from part-time job to another part-time job. 6 months there, 3 months there, 1 week there, 2 weeks, like moving jobs around and trying to find jobs with music, teaching always, because I started teaching at around 17 years of age,
How young?
I was 17 when I started
17?
teaching. Yes, I got my grade 8, from the RGT at that time, because they came to Malta once, and we were, me and Malcolm only, the two.
Yeah.
I thought. And they came only for once just to try it out, and then it failed, because no one applied for it. So we were only two. And then I started teaching, privately at my own village. But it wasn't enough to survive. I didn't have any gigs at that time. I still was figuring out everything, key signatures, harmony, scales, and then by time at around 21, I'm thinking about it. It was, how do you say, when I was like fed up, all my life trying to survive. There was this application of Big Brother, of a TV show.
Yes.
And I applied for it. And I said, this is my last straw. So if I pass from here, people are going to see me. And I was chosen. And I told them, listen, if I was chosen, the only thing I want to come in with the guitar. Me and the guitar. If you are not going to let me with the guitar in the house, I'm not interested to take part, because I had nothing to show. Like, only I wanted to play guitar, And from that on, I got contacts. People saw me, and I started getting gigs, more students. So that was my, the first step. And from 2002, I started just just playing music. Oh,
See, because I really like that story, because when you first told me about, doing Big Brother and sitting, I mean, how long were you in there for? Because you were in there for a couple of weeks, weren't you?
It was like 3 weeks, I think, something like that.
Which
it
is
was
brilliant.
like the first thing happened the month that was big,
Yeah.
And it fucked up my mind. Sorry about the
Yeah.
word for the first.
Well, it was funny because when I came out to do the examining the first time, we went out and had a tour around the island, and I remember we were walking down the street in Malta, and these people were sort of looking at you. They sort of recognise you from somewhere.
Yeah,
it was one of those sort of looks. People kept looking. I think this is a bit strange, and because then you told me the story about you being on Big Brother, and it was like that was really struck me as such a great idea, because it's so sort of.
But I had to sacrifice everything.
Yes, of course you did.
Like my privacy, I couldn't go anywhere on the island. Just to. That is the price that you have to pay. Some people say, it's cool, man, that people recognize you. No, it's not cool, because sometimes you don't want people to stop.
No, but I think it's the idea. The thing that fascinated me about this was the fact that you put the two ideas together. Because generally, if you're a guitar player, you tend, especially if you're quite radical thinking, which obviously you are because of what you've said about going to school and not doing anything there but sitting around playing guitar, is you're obviously quite a radical thinker. For you to put, something like Big Brother in with, this could be something I could use, because most people go, no, I'm not doing that. That's
but
selling out.
It was 2001.
Yeah.
Not today. It was 2001.
No, but you understand what I mean.
Yes,
for people to put those two things together is sort of it was so clever to do that, and that's the type of thing that I think that this sort of hustling for an idea. That people in the past, that you read stories about people like the Rolling Stones and whatever, and they were doing stuff like that. Obviously not going on Big Brother, but doing things that were like you would never have considered playing that place, because why would you? Or it just wouldn't occur to you that would be a good way of going. And that's one of the things I think is important, because again, because music has become, even contemporary music, has become so structured in the way it's taught. People think that there is a career path. Like, if I go and do this and get my grade 8, then I can go and do that. Then I can go and do this. And
it's like an accountant.
Yes, exactly. And there isn't a career path.
No,
and,
there isn't.
And that's the thing, which I think people just have got to understand, that you've got to go and be really, really creative about how you get your music out there, even down to how you play and how you learn. You don't have to do what other people are doing. That type of really radical thinking. So that fascinated me. So,
but again, that is the rock mentality. Because if you are classically trained, okay, if you have your diplomas, there is a guarantee that you're going to get employment with the National Orchestra, and you're safe for the rest of your life.
Yes, possibly.
But it's possible. It's 99% possible. If
yes,
you're good and you're playing, then you are going to find a job with the National Orchestra for sure. But if you play guitar, who is going to employ you?
Yeah,
no.
But you see, this is what I'm getting at. That, as you say, is the rock mentality as I understand it. But I'm just wondering how many people who are learning now have got that rock mentality. Because of the way it's taught, there's this almost classical mentality thing of saying, if you do this and do that, then this will happen. Happening within rock music. Like there is a career path. That's what I'm sort of saying. So I think we need to keep that edge of being completely, off grid, if you see what I mean. Thinking outside the box.
Yes. yes,
Otherwise, rock music doesn't change. You know, contemporary music doesn't change in the way that actually feeds anything. And it just becomes a commodity, you know. So after that Big Brother thing, what happened?
After that Big Brother, I did it at a V program, was called with 6 strings in English, teaching guitar on television. It was an half an hour each week for 13 weeks. And that gave me a big boost, you know, because then people saw me like as the man with the guitar, because I followed it, you know.
Yeah.
Then I said, no more television for the rest of my life. And I didn't do any television anymore because I hate it, you know.
Yeah.
I like the life feel, you know, that you go there for. It's not me, you know. I had to do it, but just to get the name, you know, just to get people know me, you know. And then from that on, you know, I started playing musicals, orchestra, organizing master classes, RGT exams, you know, so on and so forth. I opened the school, I closed it, I opened another one, so now I have a new place.
Right.
Close to the school. So that's it. That's it, basically.
So have you what things have you done recently that you sort of, or you know, in the last few years that you sort of look at and go, I'm really proud about that? That's
the album. So I'm doing the tunes I'm recording. So that is my goal now. That I'm finding time to record my songs, you know, and put them online on Bandcamp and having feedback. So my dream is that one time I have time to set my band, because I don't have time to play with my band anymore. I'm just playing with others because it's more easy, you know, for me. For example, I have till 2020 booked all summer.
Right.
You know, 2020.
Good.
So then, that is my plan, that after 2020, I will save enough money to say no more these shitty gigs and weddings, and now I want to play my own music. But for example, at this time, you know, if you look at my studio here, I'm refurbishing my studio, I'm refurbishing the house, so I'm a bit crazy, you know, with all the workers coming in and out. That's why I sometimes I took long to check my email. And
I'll let you off.
This is my goal now. That because I'm playing a lot of weddings, a lot of functions, you know, that I don't have fun. But there's good money, you know.
Yeah.
You get 200 euros for 3 hours. It is good. Sometimes I have 2 in a row.
Yeah.
So it's good. But then my aim is that by 2020 I will be still alive, because with this rate I'm living.
You're living on the edge, yeah.
I'm living on the edge every weekend. Drunk. If by 2020 I will play whatever I like, and focus only on my music.
Yeah.
Obviously, I continue teaching, you know, definitely. But I teach a lot as well, because as you know, I teach classes. I need to reduce, so I need to keep only the interested students, not.
Yeah. What another thing that I really liked about what you were doing was the way that you got people having lessons in groups, and that I don't know if you still do it this way, but you weren't that concerned about the different levels of ability, but you had this sort of thing of mixing people, so that do you still do that?
Yeah, definitely. That's my thing.
Yeah, because I was really impressed by that, because it was one of those things that even I...
Honestly, it's not about the money. It's not about the money, because
no. It's about
when I'm teaching, it's like I'm doing a performance.
Yeah.
It's like I want to be satisfied. Yeah. For example, sometimes people pay me 20 euros for a half an hour individual. After 15 minutes, I get bored. And they come in a class and they say, in a class, I pay €5 for an hour and I learn more from you than if I come 30 minutes individual.
Yeah.
Because I feel that it's like when you're having sex, you give that extra more,
Yeah, I agree with you, because you sort of bounce off people. If there's a lot of people there, things happen, and even somebody who's really experienced can learn something from somebody who's starting out, which is actually very similar to what happens at blues camp when I do the summer schools, because that's a real mix of abilities and stuff.
And it makes me more assertive, because I need to listen to the scale he's playing that. Oh, no, the chord he's doing.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, because you can have your ears open everywhere, and you can hear that chord over there and this scale over there, and I think that's an interesting. I maybe there's only certain types of people who can do that. Actually, I don't know, but if I get bored. There's no two ways about this, because it's that sort of interaction thing that goes on with music, isn't it? And you need to be responding to something that's coming to you. And in a group, it is obviously easier to get that, I think, than one-to-one. Although most of my work is one-to-one. But as I say, with the blues camp thing, that is definitely something of an experience where mixing different abilities actually just sort of makes things easier.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also they have a chance to jam together. For example, I always have a bass player with the class. So he's always jamming the bass player. If I have like a grade 6 and grade 4 try to play some rhythm, some blues rhythm for the grade 6, which is more advanced,
Yeah.
And for the students, it's more easier for them, because I don't tell them, listen, you can only come on Wednesday, and if you can't Wednesday, you have to come. So they phone me like 2 days before. That is the downside of my job, because every day you have to answer about 10 SMSs or 2 emails to changing lessons. So now I'm working on a system which is going to cost me about €5,000, that I have an online calendar, and students pay for the term, and they choose their lesson themselves. For example, they will tell you, like, Monday there is five places left at 4, and then you book your lesson there. So
that's a very good idea.
So I have nothing to do with payments. They pay online. They will remind them. The system will remind them when they need to pay. So I'm working on it. Maybe beginning of next year it will be finished.
That's very good.
More time, not to check all the files who came, because I have to make a register, and to keep a record. Because I teach about 100 students a week, classes of 10, from Monday to Saturday.
Yeah.
And so that is the downside of my job, that I have files like this, And and I'm not organized as well, so that makes it more.
Well, I think that also goes with the territory, actually, of being sort of that sort of open-minded thing. Is organisation is a challenge. I tend to have, although I appear to be pretty organised, I'm not really organised enough, I don't think. There's always things you sort of look at and think, oh, God, I haven't done that, So, and you're always sort of trying to play catch-up with something, Yeah. I mean, my diary is pretty good, and I don't often have a problem with that when people are booked in. But occasionally, things go wrong. But it tends to be all the other stuff, keeping, bookkeeping and all that type of thing. Yeah. You just need a way that, otherwise that gets in the way of the music.
Your creativity.
We had a period of time we actually employed some other people to do the teaching as well as, I did. And I ended up doing so much admin for other people, and I couldn't cope with that. It just drove me up the wall, because it was almost like, this is not why I'm doing this. Not,
Yes,
you
yes,
know,
yes.
to try and organise somebody's, you know, accounting system. It was just awful. So I looked at that and thought, well, you know, I'm not going to be able to run a school where you've got loads of people teaching, unless they're, you know, they do all their admin for you and they just pay you to be in a room, you know. But I couldn't organise it. You know, it's little Harry's 9th lesson type of thing, and you know, I've got to invoice this. Oh dear, it's terrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I quite like your idea of is a
Yes.
recording to
Yes.
say to somebody, here, that's for you. It's like a gift, isn't it? It's not
Yes.
just, you know. And I think one of the things that I learned early on, I did a single years and years ago. I must have been about 20, and this single, the studio said it was on vinyl. Well, we'll send about 50 out to different radio stations if you're interested in us doing that. And we're all a bit, even at that age, we're a little bit cynical about, you know, okay, nobody will play it type of thing. And what we found was that some friends of ours started to say, I'm sure I heard you I was in a shop. I was like, what? You know, and you were on the radio. And it was a bit like, really? And it turned out that we started getting radio play from different pirate radio stations and independent radio stations around Britain. And one of them happened to be Radio Caroline, which of course was like the big name in pirate radio, even though their heyday had long gone. But people were still listening to Radio Caroline. And we'd got on there, and we got on a couple of others. And it got picked up by a local BBC radio. And there was a guy there who was running a sort of a rock show, and they came out and recorded us live with this sort of mobile, BBC mobile. And we got paid MU rates, and this is the spooky thing. The payment that we got from the BBC was virtually to the pound of how much the single cost us to record and press. And it was like, that is bizarre. So we could have just taken the CD, we could have taken the single and just given them out, took no money, and then got this BBC recording, and it would have paid for it. And it was just sort of like, okay, that was a lesson, which was sort of peculiar, I thought. And I've always kept that in mind, that, you know, when you do anything like that, okay, sell things, but just give stuff away. Because you know, somewhere along the line, something will happen that will bring something to you, like a gig, like, you know, like a big function gig or something, that the payment will cover. Not just not just that one item, but maybe the whole project. It's amazing, but that really sort of changed my way of thinking, because, you know, at the time I was in that, well, we've got to sell X amount of copies of this to cover the, you know, yeah. So, you know, with your book or with your recordings and stuff, you know, I'm sure that,
yes,
you know,
I do them for myself, but it takes me a lot of energy. You know? For example, the book took me 9 months without studying, focusing, checking, writing, design, you know, everything, printing. Took 9 months to be finished, you know. So
well, I've got a project on at the moment. In fact, after I've finished here, I've got to go and see a friend of mine who's got a pressing, you know, he does the mastering and pressing. And the artwork has been done by somebody else who's part of the project. And what I've done is I've got loads of kids who I teach involved in the songwriting and the recording, and then mix them with professional players. And so it's this sort of eclectic mix of songs, you know, styles and things. And what was interesting about it was that it put me on the back foot all the time, because somebody would come in and record a bit of guitar and you'd think, right, okay, what am I going to do with that? You know, it's a bit, you know, and then you'd have to write a song around what they'd done. Or they'd come in with a song idea and they'd have a verse and a chorus, and you'd think, yeah, okay, but okay, if we did this as a ska number or a reggae number, that sounds really cool. And then you know, you'd get them to write some lyrics, and I'd rework them and stuff. So you would never get to that sort of thing of going in, okay, we're doing a blues album, guys, and everybody knows what they're doing. You know, it would be like nobody knew what was happening, and you'd throw an idea at somebody like a horn section. You'd say, right, what can you do over that? And they go, I don't know, and then they come back with something. So you're always having to be really creative. So this has taken me now 2 years, on and off. But what I've got is something really interesting. It's sort of I found it fascinating to do, and it's really made me work creatively to get a result. I'll send you a copy of this when it's done anyway, because it's sort of one of my sort of mad schemes. But you know, I'm really pleased with it. So I think that's another thing. You know, your case of a 9-month project. I've always done the artwork of all of the stuff I've ever done, but this time I haven't. I gave it to other people to do. I said, look, this is the idea, and threw it out there. And then they come back and they go, that's cool, what about chucking this on it as well? And it's like, okay, and they sort of scratch their heads and go. So I've allowed them to do things, but with me sort of giving them a little bit of a push here and there. So I found that's very different for me. But then it's, once you get to that bit, it's the marketing, and I'm sort of looking around at seeing how I'm going to do that now. So that's my challenge on this one. So now, so what's your plans for the future then, Mark? What have you got lined up? You said you've got some things that by this date I want this happening.
Yes, but for next year I have 2 shows coming. I have Mamma Mia and Jesus Christ Superstar, one in March and one in April.
So this is presumably this is in Valletta, is it? Which you'll be doing this show?
Yes, in Valletta. They are, one is up for 2 weeks and the other one is for 3 weeks. So I have like March and April the whole time with these shows, you know.
Yeah.
And gigs, functions throughout the weekends, and I try to find time to continue recording my stuff. I need to finish the studio by the end of the year, you know, so because I have all the guitars at my mom's house, I just have one guitar.
Yeah, I must say, your mum, you know, with all the things that you've said, I know she must be very, very patient lady.
Yeah.
Especially, mind you, you've obviously made a great success of what you've done, so, she's obviously very, very pleased with you. But, I mean, especially when you're talking about what was going on at school, parents must, especially now, they'd be tearing their hair out about what's he doing, why is he not doing this?
As I told you, at that time it was a different period, a different era, not like nowadays. I used to get away with it, I don't know how, either because I used to misbehave at school and they thought that if I stay playing guitar, they were sorted and so it was easier for the teachers as well, and but my parents are simple parents. My father used to work like 12 hours a day, so when he got home, he didn't want to bother with my things, my troubles. So it was like, how do I say it? It was not like an impossible thing for me to do because.
You see, that is another point here that I think is really important, because there's a lot of, I don't know if this is true in Malta as much as it is here. I don't know, because I don't know. But the parents now, there's this sort of thing that everything is like being micromanaged with children. The children have, okay, I'm part of this as well, because of, they had their lessons, they had their ballet lessons, and these kids are getting shipped backwards and forwards to different things.
Yeah, and football.
The girls have the horse riding and the ballet and the,
You know what I really hate? Hate? When they tell me, sorry, I can't come to guitar lessons because I have to go to Maltese private lessons.
Yes.
Because home they don't speak Maltese, they speak English, and they can't go to university if you're Maltese and you don't have your Maltese exams.
Amazing.
And they can't. So that really pissed me off.
You see, this is interesting. The problem is this sort of micromanaging that goes on with parents and children. We've got this thing in England where they talk about quality time with children. You think, what? As a kid, I spent most of my time outside in the garden.
Outside, yes.
Yeah, climbing up a tree or digging a hole in the ground or something, or playing, because I lived in Cornwall, which is, had a nice garden and stuff. And had a little stream that ran through the garden, so I was sort of always in the water, playing around. Nowadays people be worried about, because there was just about everything in the garden, rats and mice and snakes and whatever, and my parents never bothered about that. But now it'd be like, oh no, you can't be there because you get this illness or that illness.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing of being allowed to be yourself as a child and to play seems to be sadly missing. Because everything is, the kids are on a computer game.
iPad or mobile, if you give them an iPad, they have everything. They don't move,
Exactly.
They stay on the chair quietly.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And, and heaven forbid that they cause a problem at school. As long as everybody's doing they're not missing any extra science, or they're not missing this and and some of it is ridiculous. I mean, I've got kids. I teach at various schools as well, because the system here in England is, I don't know if you have like a conservatoire system in Malta.
No,
Greece.
no.
You don't get teachers coming in and teaching music. You have to, you do your lessons at school, and then it finishes at whatever it is, 3 o'clock, 2:30 or whatever, and then they go off to the sort of conservatoires and learn their music and all the rest of it in the afternoons. Mm-hmm. And in the UK, you have teachers that come into the schools, but then you get people going like, oh, well, so-and-so can't miss, 20 minutes or half an hour of science. And this is being told to me by people who are not in Kent. They've got the grammar school system where they select, kids go off, and they're in the grammar school or in the secondary school. And you've got the secondary school kids worrying about missing science. And you're thinking, well, science is not really going to be something that's going to be the thing that you're going to be doing, because you're already you're not in the grammar school. You're not going to be going and doing science. So really, it's only a general sort of thing. But so music would be much better for you, because it would teach you something else about the way that you think, store information, that may be much more valuable to you, because the type of person that you already are. But you can't explain that. And yet, we know this. It's not like this hasn't been sort of scientifically sort of pointed out. But anyway, that's just one of those things. So we've got some very odd things going on in the UK.
My girlfriend teaches in the school, and when she has to fill a report, for the lesson. So
oh right, so they've got
their lesson plans, they are killing them,
Yeah, I know.
Check the work. So sometimes she finish at 6 o'clock.
Yeah. At
home, doing lesson plans.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
If you're planning, it's not. You can't, because sometimes that student have a different problem. You can't plan. You have to do it on the day, I believe.
Exactly. Well, I've always thought that when somebody walks into the room, then suddenly you know what it is that they're going to do. Because you may have in your mind that they did so-and-so before, whatever it is they're working on, but they'll come in and they'll bring something else to the lesson that's sort of relevant. And if you don't respond to that, then you're not really teaching them to be creative, apart from anything else. Because if you just go, well, that's what we're working on, and we're going to carry on with that today, that doesn't really sort of go with the, like we were talking about before, the rock mentality of being able to respond to a situation. Yeah. Cool. So, just on another note, you've obviously got quite a lot of people doing the RGT exams. Still, have you? Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if it's going to be the last year or not.
No.
Because this year they made a lot of changes, man.
Yeah.
They merged with the LCM and made me crazy. And I don't have time. I have 3 or 4 different contacts. One to send the payment, one to send the student. I need to make all the students after each other by time. I used to send all the Excel sheet to Dawn, and she used to do everything for me. Now I have to do everything myself.
Yes, I know. Well, the thing is, when all this came about, as soon as we got wind that it was changing, I thought, this is not going to work. So I stopped examining. Because it became like, well, I'd already done some stuff for the LCM anyway, and they're fine, but it is a big organisation, being part of a big university, and you just get lost in that type of machinery of the big university. You're not, you can't just pick a phone up and say, oh, hello, Dawn, or whoever it is, Jay. I need, Jay's still. There.
So Tony Skinner, it's not involved anymore.
No, he's sold up, and that was it.
Okay.
So that was the end of that. And it was the thing that really alerted me to this was the fact that they tried to talk it up that it was going to be great, And as soon as that has ever been said to me, especially by, you think, oh yeah, you almost can smell a rat somewhere, and I just thought, well, it can't be better than it was because it's becoming part of a bigger thing, and it will lose that identity, and the examining part of it there were so many things had changed from when ICAPE used to come out and do the examining.
But this is my first year I'm experiencing this.
Yeah, but this has been like a slow sort of trickle up to this event, and now we've got to that tipping point where now they've sort of given it to the the LCM to do. Then you're seeing it. I mean, this is why I stopped a long time ago, because it was going that way. And things were getting more and more like, well, when you do these marking, instead of you just writing down what it was that you saw and that was it, you've got to know that you've got to click on this thing here, and here are suggested remarks that you can make, and you can amend them and you can do your own. But it's like, well, this is losing something to me, and it didn't have that sort of feeling that you were really communicating with people. They were playing to you. You were listening, and you were saying, right, okay, no, this is what I'm hearing. Oh, no, you can't make a remark. They say, turn around and say, we can't make a remark like that. And you think, well, I have. You go, but that's a teaching remark. That's a teaching remark. You think, well,
I know.
So, and you think, well, and I got a little bit cheesed off with that, and so I still organise a centre like you do, and have people do exams, and I put a lot of people in for exams, because really it's good to have a goal for many people.
Yes, it's good to have a goal, but if I find someone else who will do them, I tell them go.
Exactly. Well, I feel the same. I feel the same way on this, but that's the problem really, and And it's unfortunate because the thing that it had going for it, I think they've sort of managed to lose a little bit. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see how it
We'll
goes.
see.
But anyway, look, that's been a great chat, Mark. It's lovely to speak
Yes,
to you as
same here.
always.
Yeah.
And
Hope I will see you soon.
yeah,
You
well,
want
yeah,
holiday.
you know, if you're over, I mean, have you come over to any of those conferences? You know, because the LCM.
No. I like to come once. When is the next conference? This year or no?
I don't know. I'm guessing that they must be September time because
September.
yeah, they did. The LCM did one. I suggested of doing something, and they turned around and said, "Oh, we're already fully booked," and it was like, "Oh, okay." So they weren't interested in me being there. Because obviously, I had some sort of radical ideas about, you know, things that I could do, but they weren't that bothered. I don't think so. I might have been too late to the party, but I don't know. But it was just. But also, Max said the same thing that he suggested, and they didn't want him either. So just no. Anyway, it's just one of those things. But you know, we're still here and still playing and doing stuff. So that's good. Yeah. Anyway.
But as I said, it's becoming so much hassle to organize the exam, and then you're responsible. Everyone is sending you when is the exam is going to be, you know, like 2 months before. I don't know. I don't. So teachers they want to change. You need to send them the forms. You need to collect the certificate.
I know.
I've done that for 13 years.
Yeah.
So I think it's. So I don't get any money from it because the only commission they gave me, because they give me 10% commission, I need to pay the rent to do the exam because I don't have a place, and I need to pay a person to stay with the examiner, because I'm not going to stay 8 hours there because I get mad. So for me, it's a big hassle because I need to collect the examiner every day in the morning from the airport and the evening. I like it, you know, because I meet new persons, but sometimes you find a boring examiner. Like
sometimes you do. I know.
Sometimes you do that. He never speaks to me.
I know.
For a whole week, you know, in the car, you know.
I can imagine that's really frustrating because, you know, it's that I've always thought that was one of the great things about being an examiner, because, you know, just being able to sort of come over and see, you know, as I say, you took me around the island and everything, and we had some good chats and lots
once
of.
I had an examiner, he didn't spoke a word with me through the whole week. So I had to spend the week, you know, driving, listening to the radio. He's sitting near me, like, you want me to take you to Undina, you want to take you to Valletta, or take you to eat something? Nothing.
That is bizarre. It's so bizarre. Anyway, it's lovely speaking to you. So, best of luck with everything that you're doing.
Definitely.
And you know, I've got a lot of work to do with this podcast thing. So I'm trying to collate the different interviews, and I'll let you know when.
Yeah. Okay.
Put them up and everything. All right. But it's good. Great stuff. All right. All the best.
Hope to see you soon.
Cheers then. Bye. Bye.
Ciao. See you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Marc Gallia. There's some really interesting little things in the story there, particularly his going on to the Maltese version of Big Brother, and the sort of effects that had on his sort of musical career. I always liked Mark's sort of out of the box thinking, and he's got an incredibly successful business out in Malta, and he's a highly respected guitarist, and he's involved in lots of things, orchestral work and playing sort of jazz and rock music, etc. So anyway, don't forget to check out my website, www.vichyland.com, and also the Blues Camp website. We've got regularly either one running in the UK or in France, so the details are on the website, which is www.bluescampuk.co.uk, and until next time.